Have you ever noticed that certain people come into our lives at crucial moments? It's as if they were sent on purpose to deliver a message or help us solve a problem. Have you ever had the sensation when meeting someone of living in a déjà vu, as if you had already met them in an unspecified past? In this video, we will see that people do not come into our lives by chance, but for a specific reason. So, make yourself comfortable and stay until the end, because what you will hear will affect you deeply. But first, subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications, and share the video. In this way, you will help us produce new valuable content every day for your spiritual growth. One day, as the aged monk Hotaka was meditating beneath a cherry tree in full bloom, a young man called Hiroshi came up to him and asked with respect, "Master, why do I sometimes feel a strong connection with some people, as if I've known them before, and with others, a discomfort, as if they mean to harm me? This confuses me and leads me to wonder, do people cross our paths by mere chance?" "Dear friend," replied Hotaka, looking intently at the young man, "no one enters our life without reason, and this fact is more profound than we can grasp. Throughout our lives, we encounter various individuals, each playing a specific role in our narrative. Some briefly cross our paths, while others remain and journey with us through different phases of our life." Rising slowly, Hotaka gestured towards the expansive blue sky. "Observe the birds overhead, dear friend. Their flight is not random. They glide along the wind currents, just as we are guided by the unseen forces of life." Watching the birds soar, Hiroshi pondered the deep insights shared by the wise monk. "Imagine your life as a garden," Hotaka added. "Every person who crosses your path is like a seed planted by destiny. Some grow like colorful flowers that last a season, others like mighty trees that endure over the years, but each brings with it the promise of new growth." Hiroshi nodded, reflecting on the various flowers and trees he had seen blooming along the path of his life. "The people who hurt us," Hotaka continued in a tone of pity, "are often our best teachers. They are sharp stones on our path, and despite the pain, they teach us to grow and find our inner strength." The young monk closed his eyes, reliving the challenges that had tempered his soul over time. "And then there are those who appear when we need them most," Hotaka said, pointing to a majestic tree. "Just as the roots of this tree support on stormy days, these people support us in difficult times." Hiroshi thought of a person who had been his refuge during a very delicate period, a solid anchor in the midst of a storm. A person who, after that period, left his life, even though he would have still wanted her by his side. "Finally," Hotaka concluded wisely, "some remain with us forever. They are like fixed stars in our sky, bright and constant, true friends, family members, or soulmate. With them, we share the burden of our days and the joy of our successes." The young monk smiled, feeling enveloped in gratitude for the special people he had met and had by his side. Hotaka looked up at the sky, and a subtle light danced in his eyes. "Recognize and appreciate every person who crosses your path, young Hiroshi. Each is an essential part of your story, and you are a part of theirs. Life is an intricate web of destinies, and each encounter contributes to the fabric of your existence." "Note," added the master, "that there are fundamentally three types of individuals: those who support us on the path of our evolution, pushing us to overcome limits and reach new levels of awareness; those who bring a breath of renewal to our inner world. When we cross paths with these individuals, we immediately perceive that the universe is weaving an intricate web. What the plans are hidden in these meetings remains shrouded in mystery, but we can be certain that something in us is destined to undergo an eternal transformation. And then there are the individuals who encourage us to continue. This particular category of travel companions may only accompany us for a brief moment, but their role is crucial. They remind us of the true nature of our path, strengthening our determination to move forward. The Master's words helped the young novice who, in the following years, continued to follow the path illuminated by Hotaka with system. Every encounter, be it a casual passerby or a lasting life partner, became for him a precious piece in the mosaic of his existence. Through the challenges and joys, Hiroshi learned that every person, every experience brought with it a hidden gift, a precious teaching that contributed to his growth and spiritual fulfillment. As time passed, the novice himself became a senior monk with wise eyes and a grateful heart. In his role as spiritual guide, he shared with the young monks the profound truth taught to him by Hotaka, that life is a constant flow of meaningful encounters, each of which contributes to the unique beauty of our existence. In conclusion, what is the moral of this story? That in life, every encounter, regardless of its duration or intensity, contributes to the richness of our existence. Life is a wonderful journey of discovery, and each person who crosses our path brings with them a unique gift. Sometimes these people die. Sometimes they leave for no apparent reason. Other times, they behave badly and force you to make a decision and walk away from them. What we need to understand is that their work is done because one of our needs or desires has been satisfied. Therefore, in a world where people's paths cross and separate like branches of a tree, true wisdom lies in opening your heart at every encounter and learning from the lessons hidden in the folds of destiny as we move towards our life goals. Even difficult challenges and trials always await us, and we can feel helpless. But it is precisely in these moments that the universe sends us people who give us the courage to face these challenges and overcome the obstacles. Their support and encouragement inspire us and give us the strength to move forward in the dance of life. Hotaka told the young novice, "Every encounter is a musical note. Listen carefully to the melody that is revealed through the people who crossed your path. Find beauty in the harmony of human connections. Remember, whether it is a love or a special friendship, or even an acquaintance who touches our path, an encounter can change us forever. You ever wanted to help someone, even though they do not help others? Or your karma will suffer. Didn't explicitly ask you to, and how did it go? And have you ever wondered if your good intentions could in fact have caused a negative ripple effect that you weren't aware of? In the Zen story you're about to hear, we will see that not helping others unless they ask you is best for them and for yourself. So stay until the end, because what you discover, thanks to Buddhist wisdom, could change the way you see the world of human relationships. In essence, you will see how helping those who do not want to be helped can have negative repercussions on your life and theirs, and you will discover how your karma will be affected. In a quiet Buddhist monastery surrounded by lush gardens and ancient trees, the old and sagacious monk Noro gathered his disciples to talk about a topic very close to everyone's hearts. His curiosity was palpable, and his eyes were fixed on Noro. They all wanted to understand more about the reasons why, when they had helped someone, things had not gone as they would have liked. Life is like a great river, and each of us is a small boat navigating this tumultuous course, Noro began in a calm voice. Often we tend to jump into that current, trying to steer other people's boats without waiting to be asked. To make the metaphor he had just used understand, Noro shared a story passed down through the centuries. He spoke of a young monk eager to help a companion in difficulty without being asked. The monk's intervention, although well-intentioned, caused a succession of unexpected events, creating an intricate labyrinth of challenges, even dramatic for both. You should know, Noro continued, that suffering is a necessary lesson in our spiritual growth. Each individual, like a jewel, is shaped by the pressures of life and the challenges they face. But when we intervene without being called, we rob them of the opportunity to learn, grow and train. To further clarify his lesson, Norio spoke of two friends, Esh and Masu, who had shared joys and sorrows since their school days. One day, Esh heard about the financial problems Masu had found himself in and decided to secretly help him by paying off some debts that his friend couldn't pay. His intentions, said the master, were naturally good. However, Shi's gesture had unexpected and disastrous consequences. Masu, although grateful to his friend for the unsolicited help, was deprived of the opportunity to resolve the situation in his own way. Additionally, he noted that Shi had discovered some details about his personal life that he would have preferred to keep confidential. On the one hand, this led Masu to feel an emotional detachment from his friend. On the other hand, Esh began to feel a growing strain on the friendship. He felt that his act of kindness had not produced the relief he had hoped for, but had instead generated a sense of shame and a change in the dynamic of the friendship itself. In short, unsolicited help had created discord and confusion, demonstrating how in life even good deeds can have unexpected consequences. What we often don't understand is that each individual is at the mercy of their own karma, Noro explained. And every action we take, good or bad, comes back to us like an echo. When we help without being asked to do so, we upset the delicate balance of another person's karma and paradoxically harm our own as well. The old monk told other stories, such as that of a young man who, eager to solve the problems of a dear friend without her having asked him, found himself involved in a series of endless difficulties and misadventures. If you enter a labyrinth that is not yours but someone else's without being asked, Noro continued, you could set off a chain reaction of events, creating an intricate web of karmic connections, and your gesture of friendship, no matter how absurd it may seem, could end up doing more harm to the friend in question and to yourself. Imagine wanting to cure someone without asking them if they are willing to give up the things that made them sick, Noro said. Suffering is often caused by past actions, and our intervention could alter the natural course of learning that the individual should ultimately experience. Noro then went on to talk about Buddhist teachings, highlighting how even he himself had resisted the temptation to intervene without request. Buddha, the monk explained, had understood the sacredness of the individual learning process and how the karma of each being must be respected. Suffering is a very severe but precious teacher, Noro continued, using other everyday examples to better illustrate the concept. He spoke of the many moments when, seeing a friend or family member in difficulty, empathy pushed him to offer help, and how instead Buddha taught the wisdom of waiting for the person themselves to ask for help. Suffering is almost always the result of past actions, and karma is the supreme law that governs the universe, Noro said. When we intervene unsolicited, we enter a karmic vortex that can drag us into other people's problems with unpredictable consequences for both of us. Remember, suffering is like a teacher who guides us along the path of spiritual growth, Noro said. To interfere with this process is to deprive others of the wisdom that only suffering itself can teach. Noro told other stories about daily life at the monastery, showing how the monks applied these teachings in daily practice. Dozens of monks I have trained, he added, became wiser and more self-confident men precisely because I avoided intervening directly in their problems. By resisting the temptation to intervene to solve certain problems, I allowed them to face their own challenges and learn the lessons that karma had in store for them. Every action we take is like throwing a stone into a pond, Norio said, using a metaphor to clarify the concept. The ripples spread and return to us. When we help without asking, we not only influence the karma of others, but we create ripples that can impact our own lives. In conclusion, what do we understand from this story, and how can you help us? The more we can draw from this story is a reminder of the wisdom of discerning when to reach out and when to wait. Karma, like an unbroken river, carries our actions with it, and the way we offer our help can alter the very structure of destiny. Before reaching out to help someone, we must reflect on what they really need. Noro admonished, "Not everyone seeks advice. Sometimes they just need a listening ear and an understanding heart." Therefore, let us always remember to respect the sacredness of the individual path of each human being. Help should never be an impulsive act, but rather a conscious gesture, respectful of free will and the path of personal and spiritual growth of others and ourselves. Life is an intricate web of lessons and opportunities for growth. When we offer our help without being called, we can deprive others of the precious opportunity to learn about themselves. Wisdom lies in recognizing that sometimes the best lesson is to learn through one's own effort and experience. Therefore, let our help be a beacon of light offered when requested with awareness and respect, rather than a chain of unexpected events. How do you recognize bad people? How we understand how to recognize bad people. Watch out for these 9 signs, which individuals to remove from our lives. Every day we deal with individuals of all kinds, and we often find ourselves feeling bad because some of them are toxic people who pollute us with their negativity. The Zen story you are about to listen to will reveal the 9 signs through which you can identify the people who can undermine your personal growth. So, make yourself comfortable and stay until the end, so you will have the information you need to defend your emotional balance and your inner peace. In a quiet Buddhist monastery located in a remote region of Japan lived the elderly and wise monk Hogai. A young woman named Kiara, eager to find answers to the anxieties that pervaded her due to some toxic relationships, approached the master with respect. "Hogai, it is said that you know the secret to recognizing bad people and protecting inner peace. Please teach me," the young woman asked with a palpable desire to learn as much as possible from the monk's wisdom. Hogai, with his typical calm, replied, "Of course, my dear. If you have the patience to listen to me, I will tell you about the signs you need to pay attention to understand who is in front of you. First, however, let me make an important premise. The people who, for simplicity's sake, we define as bad, do not necessarily have to be monsters. They are bad or toxic in the sense that, with their behaviors and the energies they emanate, they can undermine our serenity and mental well-being. However, before distancing them from us, we must try to understand the reasons that led them to be as they are. It was often the pain and trials they had to face that made them dry, annoying, and even harmful. So, dear Kiara, before pushing someone away from you, ask yourself, why does she behave like this? Is he really a bad person, or is there something that makes him that way? And can I do something to prevent it from continuing to pollute my emotions? Only after you have given yourself an answer, decide whether to preserve your mental health. Push those people away. Kiara reflected on Hogai's words and was moved because she understood the enormous empathy behind them. If a person who revolves around us can harm us, we must push him away only after making sure that we cannot do anything. Now that we've cleared that up, Master continued, let's start by looking at the first sign you need to watch out for: constant manipulation. Imagine a person who, with devious skill, distorts reality to get what he wants. It could be a colleague who uses deception to advance their career, for example. When faced with a possible promotion, he begins to manipulate you by telling you that some superiors speak badly of you and suggests that you accept a job offer from another company. You may think he's doing it for your own good, but his intent is actually to get you promoted. As the young woman listened intently to the monk's insights, she was reminded of a similar experience from the previous year. Hogai then spoke of the second sign, a lack of genuine empathy. He explained, "Consider someone who appears indifferent to your feelings or experiences, showing interest only when it serves their purposes. This lack of care can deeply affect your personal relationships because you sense their disinterest in your well-being unless they need something from you." Hogai continued, describing the third sign, a habitual instigator of conflicts. Imagine a person who, regardless of the peace around them, consistently seeks to stir up trouble, fueling arguments and strife. He noted that such behavior not only stresses relationships, but can also poison the atmosphere, making it toxic. He then moved on to the fourth sign, an overwhelming need for control. Think of a friend or partner who tries to dominate your decisions, steering your life to suit their desires. Whenever you share your plans or dreams, they take steps to sway you from your path to pursue their objectives instead. This controlling behavior, Hogai stressed, can severely hamper your independence and authenticity. Reflecting on these points, the young woman considered her own experiences as Hogai addressed the fifth sign, a blatant disregard for personal boundaries. Consider someone who consistently violates your privacy, encroaching on your space, or ignoring your need for solitude. Such actions, he explained, can leave you feeling vulnerable and insecure, as they infringe upon your personal freedom. Finally, Hogai touched on the sixth sign, the frequent use of deception. Envision someone weaving a complex web of lies, obscuring the truth to manipulate outcomes in their favor. The woman instantly thought of her friend Luca, who often embellished his tales to seem more intriguing. This chronic dishonesty, Hogai concluded, is a mark of those with ill intentions or those who are inherently deceitful, prepared to harm you in some way. The seventh sign, Hogai explained, is the pattern of vindictive behavior. Think of someone who, at the slightest sign of criticism or rejection, actively tries to get even or punish you. Chiara immediately thought of Marta, her work colleague, who, faced with her warning, had reacted by spreading false and negative news about her with the intention of putting her in a bad light in front of the other employees. This attitude, concluded the monk, can generate a cycle of negativity and destroy the foundations of human relationships. And here we are at the eighth sign to watch out for, the constant search for attention. Imagine a friend who incessantly seeks approval through excessive attitudes or by dramatizing every situation. Kara immediately thought of a friend from the group she went out with. Every time they were together, she dramatized her affairs by drawing everyone's attention to herself. The ninth sign to watch out for, Hogai said, is a lack of accountability. Think about those who consistently avoid taking responsibility for their actions, always blaming others. And here, Chiara thought of her brother and at least 3 other people she knew. The brother who, since he was a boy, made trouble and then blamed it on his younger sister. Hogai took a moment to allow the words to settle, making Chiara fully understand what she had heard. Then, in a calm voice, he concluded, recognizing these 9 signals requires very acute perception because we often don't want to see that even people we love, in reality, more or less voluntarily, are hurting us. But if we want to preserve our inner peace, it is essential to put ourselves in a position to see these signs. So, Chiara, practice awareness and be vigilant in your relationships. The young woman thanked the master for his precious teachings and expressed all her gratitude, but Hogai felt that there was still something to say. In addition to recognizing the signs, always remember to trust your intuition. If something doesn't seem right, take time to reflect. Don't be afraid to end toxic relationships if it helps preserve your serenity and peace. This story underscores the importance of vigilance and discernment in our interactions. It teaches us to be mindful of the signs that reveal the nature of those around us, to trust our intuition, and to choose companions wisely on our spiritual journeys. It highlights that our inner peace is invaluable and that we should foster relationships that support and enhance this peace. The tale then shifts to the value of forgiveness, a concept often praised for its role in personal and spiritual healing. Yet, it introduces a provocative angle from Buddhist teachings that challenges conventional notions of forgiveness. It prepares us for a narrative that not only enlightens us on traditional Buddhist perspectives on forgiveness, but also encourages us to rethink our own beliefs and practices in forgiveness, potentially transforming our approach to personal growth and interpersonal relations. In an ancient monastery nestled in the Indian mountains, an elderly monk named Kumin, recognized for his profound understanding of Buddhism, encounters a man burdened by unseen woes. "Master Kumin," the man says, his voice quivering, "how can I truly learn to forgive in the Buddhist way?" With gentle compassion, Kumin invites the man to sit and shares a story meant to shed light on true forgiveness. Kumin begins, "Once, there were two brothers, sons of a dedicated merchant, who increasingly found themselves at Buddha's side, choosing spiritual teachings over family business pursuits. This shift concerned their father as he watched his sons drift from the commercial path to follow a man known for his contemplative stillness. This setup leads us deeper into a narrative that explores the intricate dance between familial duties and spiritual aspirations, all through the lens of forgiveness. This father," Kumin continued, "thought that his sons were neglecting the work and prosperity of their family, and his concern turned to anger as he contemplated the way the Buddha affected the lives of his descendants. One day, determined to put an end to this situation, the merchant decided to confront the Buddha directly. He went to the place where the Buddha was teaching, and when he saw him sitting with his eyes half closed and a serene smile, his anger broke out. This man," Kumin said, "felt betrayed. He felt that Buddha was stealing his children's future." The merchant, full of anger and despair, had planned how he would humiliate the Buddha in front of all his disciples. He wanted to spit on him and hold him down for the damage he was doing to his family. But when he came in front of the Buddha and saw his peaceful face, something changed within him. The atmosphere around the Buddha was so permeated with calm and serenity that the man momentarily forgot his vengeful intentions. However, his pride could not accept this climate of extreme peace. Then, strengthened by his determination, he spat in the Buddha's face. The Buddha's disciples rose to defend him, but the Buddha remained unperturbed, with a calm gaze and a persistent smile. Kumin described the atmosphere that followed as if a wave of calm had enveloped the place. The Buddha, he said, did not react with anger. He sat with his eyes half closed, accepting the apparently offensive act with his heart open. The merchant, seeing the Buddha's reaction, realized the helplessness of his actions, and the anger he had harbored turned into remorse. All the accusations and insults he had prepared came to mind, but in front of that peaceful presence, everything seemed insignificant. The Buddha did not condemn the man. He did not humiliate him. Instead, he offered him compassion and peace. Kumin continued. At this point, the monk interrupted the narration to highlight a crucial lesson. Dear friend, forgiveness is like that piece of the Buddha. It is not something we do concretely. It is not simply saying, "I forgive you." It is something that happens when we are willing to let go of the past and see the being before us in a new light. The monk resumed the story and described how the man, touched by the Buddhist compassion, returned home. The images of the peaceful Buddha and his act of spitting in his face collided in his mind. He continued, "That night, the man couldn't sleep. His mind was dominated by the image of the smiling Buddha and, at the same time, by the act of spitting that he had committed against her. The man, Kumin said, was at a crossroads between remorse for his past and a possibility of a different future. Kumin emphasized the importance of this pivotal moment in the story he was telling. That man, he said, was going through a process of deep introspection. He was trying to forgive himself, feeling guilty and ashamed for how he had behaved. The man, after days of internal torment, realized that his imagination was constantly constructing painful scenarios based on that past. Imagination, Kumin said, can be a powerful ally or a fierce enemy. In the wrong hands, it can create an endless cycle of anger and resentment. The man, over time, began to understand that the Buddha had not reacted to his actions with judgment, but with a very clear objective. So, little by little, he abandoned thoughts of revenge and began to sincerely ask for forgiveness. One day he returned to the feet of the Buddha, Kumin said, no longer in anger but with genuine repentance. "Forgive me, O great master," he pleaded. "My ignorance has left me blind. I was just focused on my life and the prosperity of my family." The Buddha, with his eyes half opened and a smile of peace, listened to the man's words, but when he asked for forgiveness, he shook his head. "I can't forgive you," he said kindly, "because there is nothing to forgive. You have done nothing wrong to me." The man, surprised, asked the Buddha why he did not want to forgive him. Kumin explained that the Buddha had nothing to forgive, as he had accepted the man's act without judging him. It was as if the Buddha saw beyond the past and present, feeling the pure essence of that individual. This refusal to forgive, according to Kumin, taught the man a valuable lesson. Forgiveness is not only an act of mercy towards others, but also an internal process of liberation. The Buddha, Kumin continued, taught that to forgive is to perform an act of compassion both toward others and toward ourselves. The man, impressed by the Buddha's wisdom, began to reflect deeply on the meaning of forgiveness and the idea that forgiveness was not something that could be given or received, but rather an internal experience of liberation impacted him. The story continued with the merchant who, inspired by Buddha, decided to embark on a path of self-forgiveness. As time went by, he learned to let go of the guilt and shame that had tormented him. The practice of meditation became his refuge, where he learned to observe each moment without letting himself be dominated by the memory of the past or by worries about the future. "Dear friend," Kumin said, turning to the man who was listening intently, "forgiveness is not just a gesture we make toward others, but an act of kindness that extends toward ourselves as well. When we learn to see each moment with new eyes, overcoming painful memories and letting go of our destructive imagination, we can find inner peace." The story continued with the merchant who, inspired by spiritual practice, eventually healed the wounds of the past and approached the Buddha to thank him. And the Buddha, with his compassionate smile, received him with joy. Kumin concluded the story by emphasizing that forgiveness, both toward others and toward oneself, is a complex and profound process on our spiritual journey. He said, "Forgiveness guides us to a higher level of consciousness and compassion. It is a gift we can offer ourselves and others, freeing ourselves from the chains of the past and opening the doors to a bright future." But what is the moral of this story, and what does it teach us? The moral that emerges is clear, for forgiveness, in the Buddhist view, is not an act as an end in itself. It is not something we can give or receive, but is a gift of compassion that can be extended to oneself and others. In this approach, forgiveness becomes a means of making those who have made a mistake understand the extent of their actions. The compassion and kindness with which we offer forgiveness practically and indirectly become tools to open the eyes of those who have made the mistake, leading them to a deeper awareness, because whoever commits an evil act towards someone actually commits it against himself, since karma will cause the effects to fall on him like a boomerang. So, in the end, he will have to forgive himself. Remember, forgiveness is not just a personal liberation, but a process that can lead to the transformation of others. Opening yourself to the kind of forgiveness we talk about is a way to promote awareness and growth, creating a bridge to a future of understanding and serenity. Sometimes we are so good and kind that we forget ourselves, allowing others to use us. We believe we must always be kind, and we end up becoming invisible. Have you ever wondered why you tend to be too kind, or on the contrary, there are people who are always kind and ready to help you even when you don't ask them for help? In this Zen narrative, we delve into the complexities of kindness, exploring its potential pitfalls and learning how to balance it effectively to maintain peace in our lives. This story offers vital insights into navigating relationships and achieving personal serenity. In a secluded Japanese monastery, an old monk named Iro, renowned for his profound wisdom, encounters a young woman named Chiara, burdened by her disillusionments. "Master," she confesses, "I've been deeply kind, yet this has only led to pain from those I believed were my friends. What am I doing wrong?" With a gentle smile, Ero begins to recount a legendary tale known among the monks for centuries. He tells of a village encircled by a verdant forest, at the heart of which kindness and mutual support thrived. Central to the village's prosperity stood a magnificent cherry tree, deep-rooted and symbolic of the village's strength and generosity. "Picture," Ero instructed Chiara, "a grand tree whose roots delve deep, embodying the village's communal spirit." The village flourished as the people embraced the wisdom of sharing their bounty. Yet the story takes a turn as Ero explains. Over time, imbalance crept in. Some villagers began to harvest more than their share from the cherry tree, neglecting to care for it or to share the fruits with others. Gradually, this selfishness eroded the village's generosity, leading to a decline in communal spirit and prosperity. This tale, Ero suggests, serves as a metaphor for the risks of unchecked kindness. When generosity is exploited, the very fabric of community and well-being can begin to unravel, reflecting Chiara's personal experiences with her so-called friends. The young Chiara listened attentively, while her eyes reflected the desire to understand the nuances of life. Aro, with her serene gaze, continued to share the history of a village, bringing to light details and teachings that have been passed down through the centuries. "The moral of this story," said the monk, "is that generosity must be balanced. We must give with an open heart, but with wisdom and balance. If we give without discernment, we risk exhausting our resources and weakening our ability to be truly useful to others." Chiara was happy to listen to the master's words, and a new awareness about the concept of kindness arose in her. "We might think that kindness is always good, since it helps maintain our well-being," Aro continued. "However, it is not when it crosses boundaries and leads to acting kindly in all circumstances. In this case, it is toxic kindness, a form of docility where we forget ourselves to be attentive to the needs of others. Thank our parent who gives everything of himself for the well-being of his children to the point of putting himself in the background." Aro's story was enriched with new details. He described, for example, how some people, in their desire to accumulate, had neglected their duty to care for the tree that had given them so much. He explained how the connection between giving and taking was a delicate balance, a harmonious flow that required attention and respect. Chiara, immersed in the story, began to reflect on her own life and the relationships she had experienced over the years. The monk, sensing his desire to learn, continued to share his wisdom. He talked about how expecting too much from others could lead to disappointment, and how setting boundaries was essential to maintaining one's emotional well-being. "Remember," Aro said, "I'm not saying that doing something for others is wrong. It is, however, focusing only on others. There are situations in which we want to please others because they ask for our help, or because we believe, sometimes mistakenly, that they need us, and we offer to make them feel good." Time passed peacefully. Aro and Chiara delved into the nuances of generosity and wisdom. The monk spoke of how generosity, when it came from a balanced heart, could transform relationships and bring joy to both those who give and those who receive. And Chiara felt that the monk's wisdom was helping her to understand many things. The young woman learned that generosity should flow like a harmonious current, fueled by deep awareness and sincere love, and that should never be forced. Aro concluded her narration with loving advice. "Chiara, try to be like the cherry tree in the village. Offer your generosity but keep your balance. Find joy in the act of giving itself without expecting too much in return. Remember that extreme kindness can be harmful. Sometimes, in fact, we don't leave room for others to achieve what they want because we anticipate them. Furthermore, we focus too much on what others need, and we forget what we need. In this way, we cancel ourselves, and we begin to become invisible due to our own actions. By always being attentive to the needs of others, our own needs take a back seat, so we trample on ourselves, we take away our value, and others take advantage of it." Chiara thanked the monk with a heart full of gratitude. He felt that that story and the advice that came from it would mark a new chapter in his life. But what does this story teach us, and what is his moral? That generosity is a powerful gift, but it must be cultivated with care and awareness if we want it to bring benefits both for us and for those who receive our help. Balance in giving and receiving is the key to a fulfilling and meaningful life. If we are too kind, if we are willing to do whatever is asked of us just to be considered good people, we end up no longer knowing how to say no and being exploited. In the long run, this could have repercussions on personal motivation, self-esteem, and our mental balance. So what to do? Stop being good people? No, because there are various ways to be kind in a healthier way. You can set limits, making others understand how far they can go. Say goodbye to guilt, learning to say no when you can't or don't want to go further. Draw up a list of priorities so as to continue helping others, but without putting yourself aside. Remember, be kind but not overly so. This could harm yourself and even those you want to help. How many times have you had the impression that someone has entered your life to destroy your dreams and goals? Often, unfortunately, we have to deal daily with the presence of individuals who want to harm us for the most desperate reasons: personal grudges, frustration, envy. Thanks to this Zen story, you will discover how to recognize the signs that someone wants to destroy you. Furthermore, if you stay until the end, you will also know how to behave to prevent this from happening. In a quiet Buddhist monastery nestled among the Japanese mountains lived the elderly monk Aizen, known for his wisdom and profound knowledge of the human soul. On a winter day, while the smell of boiling tea wafted through the air, his disciples gathered in the temple to listen to Aizen address a topic crucial to everyone's life. "Today, we will discuss a crucial topic," the monk said in a calm but penetrating voice. "We will talk about the 8 signs that can clearly reveal who among those who enter our lives may wish to destroy us." One of the disciples, Kai, impatient to know more, asked, "Master Aizen, what are these signs? How can we protect ourselves from those who intend to harm us?" Aizen nodded, and to introduce the first signal to pay attention to, began to tell an ancient anecdote. Once upon a time, here in the monastery village, there was a sage who owned a precious gem. One day, A cunning man approached him, praising his wisdom and asking to admire the gem. While the wise man showed the gem, the scoundrel distracted him with cunning speech and exchanged the gem for a shard of glass. The wise man realized too late that he had been deceived and had no way of recovering that gem, which would have ensured him a peaceful old age. Manipulation is like a silent shadow, Eisen continued. Those who seek to destroy us will use cunning and tricks of all kinds to distort reality and deceive us. We must learn to recognize the subtle games of manipulation. Only in this way can we protect ourselves and our inner truth. As the disciples reflected on past manipulations, Eisen shared another story to highlight the second sign, destructive criticism. Picture a flower garden, he said, where instead of care and love, the plants are repeatedly trampled upon. At first it may seem minor, but over time the garden withers and dies. Destructive criticism, Eisen stressed, is like those heavy steps crushing our self-esteem. Some will use harsh words and constant judgments to break our spirit. It's vital to recognize the difference between constructive criticism, which helps us grow, and destructive criticism aimed solely at eroding our confidence. Eisen then introduced the third sign with a smile, social isolation. He told of a fisherman from a small village, known for his amiable nature and helpfulness. An envious person began spreading false tales about him. Soon, the fisherman found himself alone, abandoned by friends, shunned by the village, and his business suffered drastically. Isolation is like severing a tree's roots, Eisen explained. Those out to harm us will try to cut us off from others, fostering division and suspicion. To counter this, we must build strong relationships, maintain an impeccable image, and resist isolation efforts. Eisen then moved to the fourth sign, defamation. He invited a guest to share a relevant experience. Not far from here, the guest began, there was a merchant respected by all. A spiteful competitor started spreading lies about his integrity, slowly tarnishing his reputation. Despite his honest nature, the community turned against him, ceasing to patronize his shop, which ultimately forced him to close and relocate. Through these narratives, Eisen teaches the importance of understanding and responding to signs of harm in relationships, equipping his disciples with the wisdom to protect themselves and maintain their integrity in the face of adversity. Defamation is a poison that corrodes our integrity, Eisen commented. Remember that those who wish to destroy us will use their tongue as a sword, wounding us and our reputation with lies of all kinds. We must defend our reputation with truth and transparency, making sure that whatever they say to defame us does not resonate with people. The disciples, some in tears, recalled in their memory the events in which someone had damaged them through their reputation, and they reflected on how from now on they could prevent it from happening thanks to the Master's words. The fifth signal Eisen spoke of was the sabotage of opportunities. Imagine a craftsman, he began, who every time he was about to achieve success, someone came to sabotage his work. Tools disappeared, plans were ruined, materials were damaged. Essentially, despite his ability, this poor man was unable to progress. Sabotage is like a wind that extinguishes the flames of our success, Eisen stated. Those who wish to destroy us will seek to damage our opportunities by creating obstacles and impediments. To prevent this from happening, we must remain vigilant and protect our path to success. We can do this by making sure we have people we can trust around us, and by keeping our ideas safe without talking about them before they are realized. As the day continued and the hot tea relaxed the disciples, who continued to listen with interest, Eisen addressed the sixth signal, the violation of privacy. By telling a legend, in an ancient city, he said, there was a keeper of ancient secrets. Someone envious of his enormous knowledge tried to spy on his manuscripts with the aim of stealing the most hidden secrets, but the custodian, thanks also to a trusted collaborator, remained vigilant and protected his treasure. Remember that your privacy is sacred, Eisen stressed. Those who wish to destroy us will try to invade our most intimate space, seeking information that could be used against us. We must protect our private sphere firmly, carefully selecting the people to whom we open the doors of our lives so we can protect ourselves. While the fog descended, making the atmosphere in which the monastery was enveloped even more enchanting, the master introduced the seventh signal, espionage. In a distant land, he said, there was a virtuous warrior. A rival, fearing his strength, sent spies to study his movements. But the warrior, with keen intuition, discovered the intrigues and repelled them. Espionage is like a shadow trying to steal our mental clarity, Eisen warned. Those who wish to destroy us will use devious means to observe our every move. We must be aware of external influences and protect our autonomy. The eighth signal that Eisen shared was the one linked to physical aggression and threats. In a remote valley, he recounted, there was a devout monk who was trying to bring some young people who were dedicated to crime to the right path. A devious individual whose shady interests were threatened by the virtuous actions of the monk tried to destroy him physically, having him beaten so that fear would induce him to desist. Physical aggression is the extreme frontier of darkness, Eisen warned. Those who wish to destroy us may resort to threats and violence. When someone threatens us, we must protect ourselves by seeking help when necessary. At the end of the day and the stories he had told, Eisen looked at his disciples with compassionate eyes. My children, life is an intricate dance, and other dancers can be our guides or our shadows. Watch and be aware of these signs, but do not live in constant fear. Cultivate a garden of trust and mutual respect around you. Surround yourself with trusted people, and don't allow the shadows to destroy the light you have inside. Are you among those who have a large number of friends, or on the contrary, among those who have none? Or do you have few but good ones? As they say, friendship is a serious thing, and today this term is used too easily. It is enough to have acquaintances to define them as friends. You realized in this video, thanks to a Zen story that talks about personal growth, we will see what it means to not have friends, and whether it is this we should worry or not. So stay until the end, because the moral of this story will make you understand many things, making you understand how to really read the term friendship. A girl named Elena, a kind and pure-hearted person, often felt sad and lonely. He looked around and saw the other inhabitants of this town with their groups of friends, laughing and sharing happy moments together. This vision caused her a feeling of emptiness and lack, since she had no people with whom to share her life. One day, while traveling through Japan, he decided to seek solace and advice from the monk Kobo, a wise hermit who lived in a small monastery on the outskirts of a town. The monk was known for his wisdom and compassion, but above all, for his solitary life. That's why Elena understood that that monk would be the right person to ask for an opinion about her loneliness. Monk Kobo, Elena said quietly, I feel lonely, and it seems that the lack of friends is a problem. Everyone around me seems happy with their friends, and I wonder why I can't have the same joy. The monk Kobo looked at her with compassionate eyes and invited her to sit down. Elena, friendship is truly a precious gift, but your happiness shouldn't come from how many friends you have. I would like to share with you the reasons why not having many friends or having any at all is not something to worry about, but can even be an advantage. The young woman, still immersed in her melancholic mood, asked Kobo to better explain the concept of having few or even no friends. and Kobo, with his wisdom born from decades of studies and reflections, began to reveal the secrets of an authentic friendship. Dear Elena, the first thing I want to tell you is that relationships and human bonds are something very important. This means that in life, we should not measure them in terms of quantity, but rather quality. Would you rather have a large number of people with whom you can share trivial things, or on the contrary, a very small number of people with whom to share very intense emotions and moods? The girl, faced with these rhetorical questions, began to reflect and understand. Many of the people she saw around her were full of friends, but what was the quality of those relationships? She asked herself intimately. Kobo, happy to read in the young woman's eyes that she was beginning to see things differently, continued, listing the reasons why having few friends or none at all should not be seen as a problem. Having few friends, he said, guarantees a certain degree of freedom and authenticity. In this way, it is easier to be yourself and live without restriction or external influences. Imagine that you love a particular activity, which may seem strange or uninteresting to others. If you have few or no friends, you have the freedom to pursue that passion without being judged. Remember, if you want to live a fulfilling life, you don't have to conform to what others think is cool or normal. After all, who decides what normality really is? Elena thought about one of the things she loved most, observing the starry sky on clear nights. This interest of hers was not understood by her classmates, who made fun of her and saw her as strange. Kobo went on to explain that quantity is never synonymous with quality. Having fewer friends, he continued, allows you to focus on building deeper, more meaningful relationships. Imagine having just one friend with whom you share the joy and sorrows of life. This connection could be so deep that the person understands all your emotional nuances. This is a priceless treasure. Elena reflected on this idea, remembering an episode in which a girl she knew supported her in a difficult moment, understanding her without needing many words. And he began to understand that in life, instead of wanting to have dozens of friends around you who are not really friends, it is much better to focus on finding that person who reads and sees life like you. The monk, after giving Elena time to reflect, continued with his explanations and spoke of another reason why he preferred quality over quantity in human relationships. Human relationships, he explained, require a lot of emotional energy. Having few friends allows you to focus this energy on the people who really matter. Kobo, to enhance the idea, used a practical example. Think about how many conflicts or tensions usually occur in large groups of friends. Maintaining small relationships allows you to preserve your positive energy for those who truly support you. If you have to argue with someone, for example, to resolve a conflict, it is much better that it is a person who really matters in your life or not. Elena found that group dynamics were often stressful, while more intimate interactions brought her joy and comfort. Kobo went on to highlight how loneliness can be an opportunity to explore oneself and grow personally. In the tranquility of your solitude, you can discover hidden passions, latent interests, or unexplored talents. You are not limited by the expectations of others, and this allows you to grow in surprising ways. So, dear Lena, my invitation is to see loneliness in another way than you have done until now. Having few but good friends allows us to more easily find moments to be alone with ourselves, and this significantly helps our spiritual and personal growth. Elena thought about how much time she could dedicate to her personal interests when she wasn't trying at all costs to be with groups of people, and how dedicating herself to herself in solitude distanced her from that search for other people's approval that did her no good. In those moments, he discovered aspects of himself that he didn't even know, and it was beautiful. Finally, Kobo emphasized that the absence of social limitations allows for greater flexibility in each of our lives. Imagine receiving a job opportunity in a faraway place with no strings attached. You are free to embrace new adventures without having to think about how they will affect your social circle. Elena contemplated the experiences of those with fewer close ties, who embraced the freedom to seize opportunities without constraints. She encountered individuals who, driven by such independence, had ventured far to fulfill their dreams. Kobo summed up, "Even if you move across the world with just a few true friends, you won't lose them. They stay with you, transcending distance and time." After listening intently, the young woman gained a new perspective on friendship. She realized that having few friends didn't equate to loneliness. Rather, it meant she could focus on her inner self and foster meaningful connections that truly resonated with her. Master Kobo embraced her gently, reinforcing, "Remember, your happiness shouldn't hinge on how many friends you have, but on the quality of the relationships you nurture with the few you choose." I've met people who felt friendless, only to find they had one person in their life worth 100 others. And keep in mind, those with few friends often possess a depth and authenticity rarely seen. They don't settle for mediocrity. Usually, those who don't mesh well with everyone and prefer fewer companions harbor an exceptional inner world and extraordinary human qualities. The moral of this story? Loneliness, reinterpreted, can be a powerful ally in your quest for happiness, spiritual growth, and personal fulfillment. It shouldn't be feared. To live contentedly, you don't need many friends, just the right ones who genuinely enrich your life, especially if you naturally incline towards solitude, reflecting a deeper sensitivity than most.